Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very, very much. Please sit down. Susan and I would really like to give the Episcopal Charities of New York our heartfelt thanks for this wonderful tribute. We thank you all for being here and supporting Episcopal Charities of New York. I also want to express our gratitude to our rector, Russ Levinson, who told you a fact of which we're very proud, and that is that St. Martin's Church is the biggest parish in the United States in terms of communicants. It wouldn't be the biggest parish in the United States but for Russ Levinson. And Russ and Laura have been there for a few years and have done an incredible job at St. Martin's Church in Houston. And Russ, we thank you for that wonderful introduction. Now, Russ stuck something in his introduction there that I need to speak to. He said I was a Marine. I am a Marine. There is no such thing as a former Marine. And I need to tell you a funny little anecdote that happened to me the first day I took my seat in the 7th floor office of the Secretary of State in Washington, D.C. My aide came into me and said, General Al Gray is on the phone. He was the Commandant of the Marine Corps at that time, and the aide said he would like to come by and pay you a courtesy call. Would you receive him? I said, of course I'll receive him. He's got 4 stars on each shoulder, and you bet I'll receive him. And General Gray came into my office. It was all I could do not to stand up and salute. And he said, Mr. Secretary, I brought you a gift. And he reached in his pocket and he pulled out some business cards that were printed on Marine Corps camouflage background. And in the card said, James A. Baker III, and then in big letters, Marine Warrior. And then in the bottom of the card, in tiny little print, it said, and Secretary of State. I think it's wonderful what you're doing here and what you've accomplished and what this charity has accomplished through the years. And I think it's, for those of us who are believers, it's wonderful to see this organization spread the loving words of our Lord Jesus Christ. And those words are reinforced, of course, by the many programs that the church conducts that comfort and transform the lives of those in need, as we've just witnessed. That path, of course, was laid out by Jesus himself when he commanded, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On a personal note, let me add that we're very grateful for the care and the spiritual guidance that we get at St. Martin's Church in Houston. Now, I want to ask you to forgive me if I begin to sound a little bit like a preacher, but we are, after all, in a church, and the moment is calling me. So let me say I know from personal experience how difficult it can be to follow the Lord's advice in our modern world. The crassness of our political debate today and the political dysfunction that accompanies it all too often bring our governments to a standstill. We yell at one another about our problems. We don't talk to each other about ways to resolve those problems. And there's plenty of blame to go around. I don't care which side of the political divide you're on. There's plenty of blame to go around, and that blame, in some respects at least, comes from a rapidly developing social media, the internet, that I'm happy to say wasn't in existence when I was up there in Washington, D.C. We didn't have to deal with it. But that internet now turns every national debate into an angry brawl. That's one of the problems for our political dysfunction. Another, quite frankly, is a press that no longer objectively reports the facts, but rather acts as an advocate and a player in our political debate. You tune into Fox News, you would think you were listening to the House organ of the Republican Party. You tune into CNN or MSNBC, you would know you're listening to the House organ of the Democratic Party. And all of that is not good for our democracy. And lastly, let me say this dysfunction is caused in some part by the fact that we live in an evenly divided country, red state, blue state, with the two sides seeing the world through very different prisms. Now, my friends, I'm not sure what we can do to resolve the challenges that are posed by these trends, but I do have an idea about a way that each of us can do our part to repair this domestic schism. And that would be to follow the advice from the book of James that says, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." So rather than blaming others for our myriad of problems, I think each of us should recognize that in a civil society, no one side gets to make all of the rules. Our country has thrived and survived in large part because we've worked together in the past on important issues. Absent the art of compromise in a democracy, chaos can ensue. Above all, I think when someone makes a point, find a way to listen to it, regardless of how incorrect it might seem to you. Don't discount people just because you don't agree with them. Listening is an important part of learning about one another and learning from one another that sends a clear signal of respect. It happens also to be a rather critical civic virtue. And in this country, we need to do more listening and less shouting, because I fear that the things that bind us together as a people and have throughout our history are getting lost in the noise. So Susan and I thank you all again for this wonderful tribute. May God bless each one of you, and may he bless this wonderful nation of ours. Thank you.